are really good for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a solo project that I call Ajax Rayovac. It's my alter ego.
What's with the name, by the way?
It was a nickname I got a long time ago because I have a little bit of OCD and I will line things up like pens will all be perfect and stuff. And somebody said, you're tidier than Ajax, like meaning like the detergent or whatever. And it just kind of stuck. But it's just a fun side thing that I do. I only have like 3 albums. I got a 4th one coming out, but it's Ajax Rayovac, and it's really far out stuff that's all influenced by I'll send you a couple of tracks influenced by my childhood. You'll hear the Floyd and the Beatles and all that stuff. It's fun.
You sent me a track for the Saw segment, but I don't want to go there yet.
Oh, which one was it?
The Noise.
Oh yeah, that's one of the ones from my solo record. Yeah.
We'll definitely listen to that
cool.
later on in the podcast.
Oh, nice. I forgot that I sent
it was really super cool. Somehow Spotify logged me out today, so I don't know, I was like looking for it I found it on YouTube finally. But yeah, it's, going back to, we kind of touched a little bit on your approach to production, and we'll get deeper into that. But I do want to ask you about, artists, because you've been in this for a long time. Yep. So like, I'm assuming you're not necessarily saying yes to every artist that approaches you. What are you looking for when an artist does approach you to see if like, hey, this is going to be a good fit for me and we're going to be able to make good music together?
It's a great question. It's really a kind of an involved thing. There's so many different factors that will make somebody end up working with me. A lot of times it's a common taste. I just hear something in somebody that it's appealing, and we end up like sharing, like, this is how I always start any project, is like, well, send me 5 of your favorite things ever. And then send me 5 things that you're really into now that you're really mad that you didn't do yourself, that are from the last year or 2, And then I study that stuff, and I can see where they're trying to come from. I don't have a signature sound, and that's one thing. I mean, I have a Spotify playlist with like 42 hours of music I've produced, and it's like, it's so all over the place. You will not hear a common thread, because for me, it's about getting inside what the artist wants and helping them elevate that. I mean, that's always been the joy for me. I mean, I can make myself happy all day long, but that's not gonna do it at the end of the day, So, you know what I'm saying? I can impress myself until I'm red in the face, but it's not going to, it's not success for the artist. So, it's mostly word of mouth. It really is. People that are looking for very detail-oriented thing, and somebody that wants to trust you to go through this very detailed process. It's not going to be for everybody. You find it's hard to explain, but people that are looking for what you do, and you're looking for what they do, and boom, there it is.
It's like a chemistry or something.
Yeah. It's and I'll get I get submissions all the time on Instagram, and I'll listen to something and say, well, you're doing great. This is I don't think you really need me for what you're doing. It's like, I'll be honest to people and tell them. But then there'll be somebody who says, oh my God, I heard your work on so-and-so and I love this and this. I'm really trying to go for that kind of thing. Or would you be interested in and I'll, hook them up with my manager, and we'll do like a song. We'll do one song and see how it goes. And a lot of times that leads to a 10-year relationship. I mean, a lot of my clients have been working with me for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, Donna DeLore, who was Madonna's main background singer for years on stage and in the studio, we've been recording together at least 25 years, and she's incredible. She's better now than she ever was. We have a band called, a side project called La Machine de Rêve, with my friend Greg Anson, who's a really great filmmaker and musician. And yeah, it's funny how you get hooked up with somebody, and it can be a real long relationship, And I tend to be, those are the ones that I tend to happen with what we do, because we're kind of like a subculture, like a family, like we have our own thing, It's hard to explain. Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. It's like a family affair. It's like, my people that come here are like my friends, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, they become your friends, and I sort of kind of become a therapist sometimes when they're recording.
Sure. A lot of roles.
And like, yeah, it's interesting. But I think what does give me joy is like that collaborative effort, personally. Like I don't know, I just did a drum session last night, and it was just like so fun to be in a room with other musicians and kind of
wonderful.
Help give each other direction and like, deliver on that, and like just make it happen.
Yeah, I missed that through COVID. I didn't realize how much I missed it, because I've become so comfortable doing this remote thing. And I recently had a session with this band called Electric Lecture, and I've been like co-writing with them, and they're super cool. And Bronson, the singer, guitar player, young guy, incredibly talented guy. I was in there like helping him get guitar sounds, and I had this like Chandler germanium box, and I was like, I was like, he's playing and I'm cranking. It's like, it's so nice to work with somebody, and instead of me on the floor, like with my pedals doing it, it's like, like getting your hands, roll up your sleeves and get in there with somebody, and then bouncing, the chemistry of the ideas off. And like what we came up with was way better than what I come up with oftentimes on my own. It's a fantastic record we're working on. I'll have to share that when it's done. I really missed that, that thing that happens when you're in the room with somebody.
Yeah. Two heads are better than one, and three heads could be better than two.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, and then sometimes you can argue all day long, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Even if they are a good artist / client, know?
Yeah. No, you have to always speak what's on your mind, even if it's uncomfortable sometimes,
Right. Yeah, being forthright is hard with artists.
It is, and you can say, look, it's just my opinion, but I think you could do this. You can take it with a grain of salt, or you can, think about it.
I mean, that's also about the, the relationship. Like, how well do you know the person?
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Yeah. Do you know if they can like handle that criticism, and how do you deliver it?
How you deliver it is everything. There's a way to make it. Basically, you can literally make your idea feel like their idea if you've been doing it long enough. And I don't know how
I don't think I've gotten to that level of zen yet. But that sounds
it
awesome.
happens to me a lot. And I'm okay with it.
Yeah, got to take another 30 years and maybe that'll happen. Amazing. So walk me through like your process of hearing a song for the first time. Do you ask for a demo? Do you ask them to come into the room and play it for you?
Sure, all that. Like sometimes it's a demo. Sometimes they actually come here and play. Like I'm working on the closing credits to this movie called The Wickensburg, and Garen Jensen came in here. He's a 13-year-old kid, super talented guitar player, songwriter. And he came in and played me stuff, and, we picked out a song to do. It's like other times people send me like 10 songs, and I'll say, let's pick one. And this is the one I want to do. And then we go back and forth. So it's all different ways. But, once we pick a song, then the next thing to do is really just kind of make sure the tempo's right. And that's one of the things that I really want to really be careful with, because I don't like the sound of time stretching. I don't want to record a whole bunch of tracks and then time stretch them like in Elastic Audio or anything. I hate the way it sounds. It sounds like whoosh, whoosh,
yeah.
whoosh.
I never do that.
I can't deal with it. So you want to make sure that you get the tempo perfect. And then after that becomes the arrangement. But nowadays with DAWs and the way we record now, it's like you want to add that extra 2/4 bar before the first chorus, no problem. It's like, the arrangement can develop on its own. It doesn't always have to be in stone. Like in the old days when you're recording to tape, you had every kick drum pattern, every fill going into the chorus, every transition had to be well thought out, because you can edit 2-inch tape, but it's tough. Like Bob one time edited 40 days drum tracks. 40 days.
40 days?
Yeah, for one album. 40 days of drum track on 2-inch tape. So, you see all the edits going back. And then 3 months later when you're mixing, it's like, oh, that one let go. It's like, oh, there's a dropout. It's like, it's like amazing the stuff that you had to deal with back then, crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing what we had to deal with, and it's amazing what we don't have to deal with today.
Yeah, now it's easy now. Well, not easy. It's still time consuming, and you still have to use your brain, but it's hard work, but it's much easier.
You don't usually have to do the work twice.
So yeah, I got off track. So that was the arrangement. Once you've got the arrangement, then as a producer, you're thinking about the landscape, and so you're keeping in consideration like what their passions are for music and what where they've come from and where they want to go, and like in negotiating those two worlds, and finding a place to land, and and the parameters are within a certain specific time and budget, within a certain target market. I hate to sound like a record guy, but if you want to compete on a high level, you have to like think of all these things.
Do you help the artists think about that stuff, or do they usually have
a lot of times? Well, now I feel like a lot of young people today really have a much more powerful vision, and they're willing to collaborate, and you find like you meet in the middle. Back in the old days, people would rely on you to help create a vanguard for the next era in their career, and that's what I used to be known for. And I still do that. I mean, and sometimes it's a combination of where they think they want to go and where you end up. I mean, there's a certain element of finger painting that goes along with it. Like, I don't plan every sound out. Like, I'll do 20 or 30 guitar takes through a crazy stereo signal path, and then later I'll come back to it, like go through it and find like, oh my God, there's that one thing. and it was just like a 4-bar transition or something into the bridge. That's all you used from that whole slew of tracks. You know what I mean? So it's like there's a certain element of finger painting or a quilt making. You know, it's like in what I do. You know?
Yeah, like experimentation and just playing.
Yeah. You know, it's because you I think you stumble across brilliance more than you actually conceive it.
I love that. Oh, that's a great quote. Stumble upon brilliance more than conceiving it.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Maybe that's a t-shirt.
Yeah.
You know?
That's awesome.
I've got another one. You can't auto-tune charisma.
You can't.
So I'm gonna have a line of t-shirts. I think the stumble one's good though. I have to write that down.
I mean, I'll send it over to you.
Okay,
after
thanks.
the edit is done or something.
All right.
Yeah, I do think there is something to that, and I think that's why people are so inspired by like splice loops or just like random things that they just find or like,
found sound.
Yeah, or you were doing that, like, you know, you find that vinyl thing and you get that one little thing that inspires. You can't conceive everything in the project. You kind of have to get started
and you have a target, and you have like sort of a home base, and then you know where you're starting and where you want to end up, and where you end up can be a little bit not exactly what you expected, but it has to be somewhat what you expected. It's like, you know, you don't want to start off like trying to do X and end up with Y and Z. You know, that's not going to work.
Right. You don't want to start off with trance and end up like a country song or something.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I had one artist one time I worked on a song, and I went to one of the top writers in Nashville who had a lot of hits, Mike Lawler. He's an incredible writer, and he's an amazing B3 player. He played with James Brown when he was like 19, and he played with on Stevie Winwood stuff. I mean, he played organ with Steve. You know, that tells you everything. But,
yeah, right.
You know, so I had him write the song with the artist, and then we cut it in a country. You know, we used like a real well-known lap steel mandolin dobro. And the whole time I'm making this record, I really thought we were making a country song. And we get to the end of it, and it's mixed and everything, and I get this weird email, dude, this is just like too country. And I'm like, well, that's why we went to Nashville and wrote with a country hit songwriter and hired all country players, you know. But you know, people sometimes shock you, and that the moral of that story is you got to. The moral of that story though is you got to communicate. You got to speak your mind during the process. You can't wait till it's done to speak your mind. And there's a small, tiny percentage of people who just can't speak up during the whole process. And then they get to the end, and if it's not what they want, they kind of have a nervous breakdown. And it's like, I encourage people to communicate from day one, you know, and keep an open line of communication. That's like super important, you know. Otherwise, you could end up off track, you know.
Yeah,
that's a rare case, but yeah.
No, that's a great takeaway for the audience. And you know, I'm thinking about, you know, when I work with, I was working with a teenager recently, and it was like she was basically giving me carte blanche, and I was like, okay, well, are you cool with that? And she was like, yeah, I think so. And it's like, I need more feedback. Like, tell me, you know, I'm so reliant on the artist to kind of,
you know, you do need that.
In the end, she gave me feedback, but it was like,
you
know, it'd be like after the whole set, after the day, and then we'd readjust. But it's hard in the moment when I'm not getting that kind of like interplay with the artist.
Yeah, it's important. Communication is key for sure.
You know, for me personally, like, you know, like things that inspire you and kind of get you started. I'm a bass player, so for me, the bass is obviously an easy first place to go to kind of draw inspiration and get a vibe. I know you're a guitarist and a drummer. Like, how much do those instruments kind of influence your productions, and where do they kind of come in?
Well, that's a good question. It's different for different songs and artists. Like sometimes I don't play any instruments and I'm just working as, you know, like a big picture guy and I'm steering everybody in the right direction. But a lot of times people come to me to get a little of my extra magic thrown on top, you know, like almost like it's going to either be like the sprinkling dust or is it going to be the meat and potatoes? You know, that can vary greatly. From project to project, you know.
Cool.
I do think my sense as a drummer has an influence on the way that the music feels. And as a kid, I remember, this is a really early memory in the studios, like when I was even like 14, 15, I remember working in studios and I would be the drummer and then I'd come back 2 weeks later and everybody was playing faster than the click. And somebody would say, wow, the drums, they're really draggy. And I'd be like, wait a minute. The drums aren't dragging, you're all rushing, you know? And I think that's when I knew my life's mission was going to be to slow down guitar players, you know? I think that's when I knew at that moment. you know.
That is hilarious. That's
No,
amazing.
No, but that's going back to the fundamental